Welcome to Hope Center Online and our Sunday presentation of The Simple Truth. Today's faith message is simply called The Ransom. Today is, of course, March 16th, otherwise known numerically as 316. And anybody who knows the verse from John 3:16 will easily grasp the significance here of the ransom. And I want to open with a story of a real life ransom. It happened a few years ago about a man in New York City who was kidnapped. And again, I want to remind you this is a true story. The kidnappers called his wife and demanded a $100,000 ransom, but the missus refused, and she dickered with them. She talked them down to 30,000 for the ransom. True story. And there was a wonderful happy ending all round. The man came home. He was not harmed. The money, in fact, was recovered. The kidnappers were caught. They were sent to jail. But in the back of my mind, don't you just wonder? When I first heard this, I couldn't help but wonder what the man said when he found out that his wife had bargained for his life. Can't you just picture that scene on the telephone with her and the kidnappers? 100,000 for that old guy? You must be crazy. Look at him. Look at that gut. Look at his old bald head. You want 100,000 for that? You've got to be kidding me. I'll tell you what. I'll give you 30,000, not a penny more, and that's my final offer. I I can picture it like that somehow. I wonder, any ladies who can identify with this particular wife, and if your man was kidnapped, would you be dickering for a bargain? Any husbands here who can imagine this happening in your home? Well, I certainly would like to think if I were in that situation, there would be somebody who would spare no expense to get me back. There would be no haggling, just every effort to get me home, no matter what the cost. Well, you probably know where I'm going with this. As we approach what is perhaps the holiest season of the year, we should hold that thought. Just hold that thought. We should remember that God spared no expense to pay our ransom. The book of Isaiah predicted that ransom. In fact, Isaiah makes a number of predictions about Jesus, and one after another, each prophecy was completed in full. And not only should this give us proof for our faith, better still, the fulfillment of Isaiah's prophecies gives us so much hope of what is yet to come. Let's look at chapter 35 and verses 3 to 10 for the blessings of our ransom, but also of the many blessings yet to come. Strengthen those who have tired hands, and encourage those who have weak knees. Say to those with fearful hearts, be strong and do not fear, for your God is coming to destroy your enemies. He is coming to save you. And when he comes, he will open the eyes of the blind and unplug the ears of the deaf. The lame will leap like a deer, and those who cannot speak will sing for joy. Springs will gush forth in the wilderness, and streams will water the wasteland. The parched ground will become a pool, and springs of water will satisfy the thirsty land. Marsh grass and reeds and rushes will flourish where desert jackals once lived. And a great road will go through that once deserted land. It will be named the Highway of Holiness. Evil-minded people will never travel on it. It will be only for those who walk in God's ways. Fools will never walk there. Lions will not lurk along its course, nor any other ferocious beasts. There'll be no other dangers. Only the redeemed will walk on it. Those who have been ransomed by the Lord will return. They will enter Jerusalem singing, crowned with everlasting joy. Sorrow and mourning will disappear, and they will be filled with joy and gladness. May God bless the reading of his holy word. My friends, the blessings we have already received in this life all pale in comparison to the hope and the promise of what still lies ahead for us. It's all because God was willing to pay our ransom and to pay it in full. But think about the price that he paid. Take note that God did not dicker. He didn't haggle or question the price or seek to get us at a bargain. God knew the price ahead of time. He knew the cost, and he in fact warned us of that cost, a price that none of us were willing to pay. God had set the price himself, and he told us right from the beginning that the price for sin is death. When we failed him, when man committed the first sin and all mankind followed, the price on our head was death. And unlike the wife in our story, God did not question our worth. He did not look at us to see our failings, our weaknesses. No, my friends, God did not hesitate. He knew the price, and he paid the price with his Son. And to be perfectly clear, it was Jesus who paid with his own life. That's what we must never, ever forget. God came to earth as a man to pay the price for all mankind. He was born of a woman, just like you and I. He lived and grew and worked just like you and I. But unlike you and I, God came to serve all mankind. He came to pay our ransom, to set us free from our guilt and shame. And more than that, he came to release us from the death penalty that each of us faced under his law. He came and he died, and we are free because of him. Let us never forget the price that he paid for us, a price that we could not and probably would not be willing to pay. Jesus paid the ultimate price. Remember earlier when I asked you to hold a thought, I said that as we approach the holiest season, we should remember that God spared no expense to pay our ransom. I ask you to consider how you feel about that. There's not one of us who was worthy of his suffering, let alone his death for us. Not one of us deserved such a gift. And make no mistake, God's forgiveness was indeed a gift. There were no strings attached. There were no conditions tied to it. It was just freely given to all who would receive it. We did not deserve it. We did not earn it. And we could certainly never buy it. I ask you, how do you respond? How do you respond to the thought that Jesus died for you personally? Me too, all of us, but he died for you. He gave his life willingly and freely for you. He gave his all for you. How do you respond to that? What do you think when you think of that? We're beginning our journey into the holy season, perhaps a time to pause and reflect on all those events that were so strongly recorded in history. Jesus was kidnapped and held for ransom. Did we learn anything from his suffering? Do we place a value on his life? I hope you answer yes to these questions, because if you don't, did he die in vain? I hope you realize the magnitude of the price that he paid for you. It should be with us always. A kind of, a kind of nagging in the back of your mind that just won't ever go away. But sadly, we tend to forget. Time has a bad habit of washing things away, and over time we tend to, take things for granted. We tend to concern ourselves with today. Yesterday, the news just fades away. We live in a world that asks, "What have you done for me lately?" But on this day, and over the next 5 weeks, I pray the reminders are just overwhelming, that each of us will be reminded in no uncertain terms that what Jesus did is so great, so huge, so important, that it projects into your life, as it certainly will, into eternity. Now, let me restate that. When Jesus paid our ransom, he secured our place in eternity. That we know, and that we seem to understand. But more than that, what he did then changes everything right now. You see, it's not a matter of having hope for tomorrow. It's a commitment to peace and hope without fear or sorrow or regret or remorse today. He paid the full price so that we may truly enjoy our life, that we may rejoice in Jesus, not forget about him until he comes back tomorrow. What he did then is still paramount today. And yes, it also determines our tomorrow. Jesus paid the ultimate price for us forever. Jesus is not only our ransom from heaven, he is our ransom for heaven. That's a thought to hang on to cling to hold true. Thank you for being here with us today. The Simple Truth tries to tell a story that is so simple that you want to follow Jesus, and that's when the tough part starts. It's easy to make a decision to follow the one who paid that price, but it's not easy at all to follow. Making the decision, fine, but following through, thinking of him daily, putting him first in your mind, in your heart, in your strength, in your soul, every day, not easy. So for those who think that we tell a simple story with a simple conclusion that is too hard to believe, too simple, too good to be true, there's work to it. It isn't easy. Yes, simple, but not easy. Hope you'll come back again. Hope you'll bring somebody with you. Join us online at hopecenter.ca. Perhaps you'd like to come and visit Hope Center itself, 138 Church Street in Pugwash, Nova Scotia. We work from the Hope Center, but we work online as well. We do hybrids of both live in person and on the internet. There's always something going on. Check it out at hopecenter.ca. And as always, if you have a question or a thought or a concern, please just send me an email. Send to bill@hopecenter.ca. And until then, as I always do, I'll ask the Father to bless you here today and forevermore. Amen.